Hello, I'm Ross Atkins with Outside Source. This is the extraordinary story of climate change. Vaccines, Europe, the Taliban, China. There is an awful lot to consider. Let's take this stage by stage. Here's the BBC's Stephen McDonald in Beijing. So help me understand the politics of this. Let's look at some of the international reactions. Tell us what you've been hearing. In practical terms, what does that mean? Next, we have to step back and let's just remind ourselves this is all part of the same story.
Piece the story together with Ross Atkins. Outside Source. Weekdays at 7 on the BBC News Channel.
This is BBC News with the latest business headlines for viewers in the UK and around the world. Energy shock, oil and gas prices surge again, piling more pressure on consumers already facing a cost of living squeeze. Also on the rise, borrowing costs. The head of the US Federal Reserve says they'll start raising interest rates this month. War or no war to rein in soaring inflation. Supply chain strain, firms face higher shipping prices and longer delivery times as the war disrupts global trade. Plus, crypto crackdown. The EU wants to stop the likes of Bitcoin being used to bypass sanctions on Russia. Hello to you, a very warm welcome to the programme. We're going to look at the economic impact of the war in Ukraine and how that's being felt around the world. So let's start with energy, because Wednesday saw another surge in the cost of oil and gas. Traders are said to be struggling to sell Russian oil, even at a discount, because of difficulties in shipping and the payment process. Well, energy experts in the UK warn that the cost of the average household dual fuel bill could rise by at least £700 by the time the new energy cap comes into force in the autumn. Further price rises at petrol stations are now expected, as our business editor Simon Jack reports. Well, let's get the thoughts now of Jonathan Robinson, who is Global Power and Energy Research Director at Frost & Sullivan. He is in Geneva for us. Jonathan, welcome to the programme. Look, it's a bit of a perfect storm, isn't it? Energy markets right around the world were already suffering. They were already struggling with supply issues. And now on top of this, concerns about supplies from Russia. It's very hard to see how prices start falling anytime soon, isn't it? Now, soaring energy costs are also feeding into global inflation, and that's posing a huge dilemma for central bank policymakers right around the world. Do they press ahead with planned interest rate rises to try and rein in rising prices, despite concerns about the economic disruption caused by the war in Ukraine? Well, the US Federal Reserve Chief, Jerome Powell, was speaking to Congress on Wednesday. He said they were struggling to understand the economic impact of the war, but he was clear that war or no war, borrowing costs would be going up this month, as Samira Hussain reports now from New York. Stay with us here on BBC News. Still to come this hour, cryptocurrencies have surged since the Russian invasion of Ukraine, but is a sanctions crackdown now on the way? This is BBC World News, the latest headlines. Kherson becomes the first major city to be captured by Russia's invasion. The Ukrainian president says his nation remains defiant. Fleeing the fighting, the United Nations says 1 million refugees have now left Ukraine for neighbouring countries. Well, the global supply chain crisis caused by the pandemic is now being made much worse by the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Ships are being forced to reroute away from the area, adding to congestion at European ports. Shipping prices are soaring, delivery times are slowing. It makes life harder for any company that's trying to move goods around the world. So are there any answers? Let's speak to Guy Platten, who's General Secretary of the International Chamber of Shipping. Guy Platten, welcome to the programme. Just how easy is it for ships to get around the world right now? Guy Platten there, Secretary General of the International Chamber of Shipping. Elsewhere, the price of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies has leapt since Russia invaded Ukraine, as people in both countries look for alternative ways to store and transfer money. But the big question, could a crackdown now be on the way? The European Union is concerned that crypto assets could be used to evade its financial sanctions on Russia. And according to France's finance minister, it's now planning to take action. So as promised, let's have a little look at what the numbers are doing. There's been so much volatility as far as markets are concerned, but as we start to get a bit of a sense of how this could play out, investors say it is a long game. We'll see some recovery in Asian markets after what's been a very difficult start to the week. Brent, as we saw a little earlier in the program, though, now $116, nearly $117 a barrel as those supply concerns continue. Let's have a quick look and show you what we're expecting. This is a figure from the US overnight, of course, really reiterating what we saw in Asia, that markets are somewhat now getting used to this volatility and know a little bit more about what they are expecting. You see light crude there once again, $114 a barrel. You're up to date. The headlines coming up for you a little later. See you soon.